Hey everyone, today we're going to be working on number 9, System Notes, Solving Systems by Elimination. And this is a multi-step approach. So the first thing you're going to do is put into, and you want that into standard form. And if you remember, standard form is ax plus by equals c. Okay, so that just means my letter or my number with my x comes first, my number with my y comes next, and then my c or my constant, the number that doesn't have a letter next to it, is going to be after the equal sign. The next thing you're going to do is multiply one or both equations by a number so a variable cancels. So you want to get rid of one variable. Then you're going to add the equations together, and when you do this, one of the variables should be gone. So either your x or your y, you're going to have a positive of one and negative of the other, and they're going to cancel each other out. And then you're going to solve for the remaining variable. Once you have one of them, x equals or y equals, and you have a number related to that x or that y, substitute that value back into the original equation and solve for the other variable. Okay, so that's pretty wordy. So let's see what this looks like in math terms. Okay, so when I look at this first one right here, I have negative 2y equals 4x minus 12. Okay, if I want it in standard form, I need my ax plus my by equals c. So I notice right now I have my y on the left side of the equal sign, but I need my x on the left side of the equal sign. So let's rewrite that so to get my x over there. So I have negative 2y equals 4x minus 12. Okay, if I want it on the left side, right now it's a positive 4x, so I'm going to subtract it. So I'm going to subtract 4x on both sides. That gets rid of them over here. And if I want it in standard form, I want my x to come first. So I'm going to say negative 4x. Now I want my y minus 2y equals what's left on the other side is negative 12. Okay, so this one we no longer have, this top one. I'm just going to put like a little strike through in it. So we no longer have this one right here. Instead, we have what we just made, that negative 4x minus 2y equals negative 12. So now I'm going to put that right under my 4x plus 8y equals negative 24. So I'm going to say minus 4x minus 2y equals negative 12. Okay, I'm going to get my equals bar under there. Okay, I'm looking for a letter that is the same and it has a positive number and a negative number. Well, if I look, I have a positive 4x and I have a negative 4x. So those two cancel out. So I'm just going to get rid of those. Those are not there anymore. And I'm left with 8y minus 2y. So 8 minus 2. And I could say 8 plus a negative 2, but I just like to kind of read it straight down. I have 8 minus 2, and that leaves me with 6y. So I'm going to say 6y equals, if I have a negative 24 and I subtract 12, so again, I could say negative 24 plus a negative 12, or I can say negative 24 minus 12. I like the minus 12. So negative 24 minus 12 is going to give me a negative 36. And then if I want to get that y by itself, I'm going to do my last step, which is divide by 6. And I get y equals negative 6. Okay, so we found our y, so now we're looking for our x. In order to find x, we're going to plug it in either one of the original equations. So I'm going to go ahead and erase my, oh, that's a big eraser. Erase my strike through right there. Okay, so I'm going to look at one of those two equations, so either my top one or my bottom one, and I'm going to plug that y back in. So this y, right, make that quite a bit smaller. There you go. So this y right here, I'm going to plug in that for a y up at the top. I'm going to plug it in right here. That looks like a good spot. I could do it in either one. I'm just going to do it in the top one this time. Okay, so now I'm going to start at the beginning. It starts with negative 2. Oops, that's not what I want. starts with -2. Now I want my y, so I'm going to use parentheses and put my y in there. And then equals 4x minus 12. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do on that left side is distribute that -2 to that -6. A -2 times a -6 is going to give me a positive 12. So 12 goes on my left side. Equals, and I still have 4x minus 12. Okay, I want to get my x by itself, so I'm going to add 12. Add 12. So I get 24 equals 4x. To get that x by itself, I'm going to divide by 4 and divide by 4, and I get x equals 6. So my ordered pair is going to be 6, -6. So this is kind of what we're looking, not kind of, this is what we're looking for our final answer. Okay, so let's try that with number 2. We're going to do the same thing. I want my x and my y on the same side of the equal sign. So I look at this first one. I have 4x plus 8y equals 20. So that one's already in standard form. When I look at this one has 4x equals -2y minus 30. So that's the one we're going to have to change. So I'm going to put that one in standard form. So -4x minus, sorry, not minus 2y. Oh, geez, why did that get so big again? Equals -2y minus 30. Okay, so I want both my x and my y on the same side. So if I want that 2y on the other side, I'm going to add 2y and add 2y. Standard form means my x comes first, so my -4x is going to come first. Then I'm going to add that 2y. Equals goes in the middle, and I still have -30 on the bottom, or on the right side of the equal sign. So when I'm looking, I'm not using this one anymore. So I'm going to strike through that one. So I still have that top, which is 4x plus 8y equals 20. And then right below it, I'm going to write what we just found right here. Oops. This one right here. So we're going to put that right below. So I have -4x plus 2y equals -30. Okay, I'm going to get my equals bar in there. And then I'm going to get my left side and my right side. Okay, when I look, I have a positive 4x and a negative 4x. And I have a positive 8y and a positive 2y. Well, the only ones that are going to cancel out are those 4s. So I'm going to go ahead and cancel those 4s out. Those aren't there anymore. So now I just have my 8y and my 2y. That's going to give me a 10y equals, if I have 20 and I subtract 30, that's going to leave me with a -10. 20 minus 30 is -10. To get that y by itself, I'm going to divide by 10, divide by 10. I get y equals -1. Okay, so now that I have that y equals -1, I'm going to come back and look at these guys up here. And I can plug it into either one of those. It does not matter. It just has to be one of the original equations. So this one, I'm going to take this right here, and I want to plug it in. Let's do this top one, and it's my y value, so I want to plug it in where y is. So I'm going to rewrite all of that, but when I get to y, instead of writing y, I'm going to use parentheses. Oops, that's not what I want. I'm going to use why is my pencil not working? There it goes, parentheses, and stick in that -1. So I'm going to start with, change colors so you can see what I'm doing here. 4x plus 8, now I'm going to use parentheses, -1 equals 20. Okay, 4x is not going to change, that's going to stay a 4x. 8 times -1 is going to give me a -1, so instead of saying plus -1, I'm just going to, 8 times -1 is going to give me -8. So instead of saying plus negative 8, I'm just going to write minus 8 right there. Equals 20. Okay, to get rid of that minus 8, I'm going to add 8, add 8. So now I have 4x on my left side and 28 on my right side. I'm going to divide by 4, and I get x equals 7. So my final solution, I need to put them in an ordered pair. So I have 7, negative 1. That's my ordered pair. I could graph 7, negative 1, and that would land on a graph. Okay, let's try number 3. Okay, I'm looking to see, are they in standard form? That's my first job. Are my x and my y both on the same side of the equal sign? So here's my equal sign. Well, I have 7x, so that one needs to be changed. So let's go ahead and change that one right now. Okay, so 7x is going to stay where it is. First, we're going to rewrite it, and then we're going to fix it. Make my pencil just a little bit bigger. So I'm going to say 7x equals negative 2y plus 24. Okay, my x is already on my left side, and now I want to move my y on my right side. So that says minus 2y, so I'm going to change it to plus 2y plus 2y. Okay, remember my x comes first, so 7x plus 2y equals, my 2's are gone, that's going to give me 24. Okay, so now I'm in standard form. 7x plus 2y equals 24. So now we're not using this top one anymore. We're done with that one. So we're going to eliminate that for right now and just write what we just got under our other one that's already in standard form. So 7x plus 2y equals 24. Okay, problems number 1 and number 2, those ones were so easy because you already had a positive and a negative of the same number. When I look at my x's, I have a positive 8x and a positive 7. Whoops, there should be an x. I wrote y. This one should be an x right here. And I have a positive 7x. And then I have a positive 2y and a positive 2y. Well, because both my y's are 2, it would be easiest to make one of them negative. So let's make this bottom one negative. So to make it negative, I'm going to put parentheses around it and times it by negative 1. If I times it by negative 1, it just means if it was a positive number, now it's going to become a negative number. If it was a negative number, it's going to become a positive number. So negative 1 times 7 is going to give me negative 7x. Instead of a plus 2y, I'm going to have minus 2y. Instead of a positive 24, I have minus 24, or a negative 24. Okay, and then I'm just going to rewrite the original one that was already in standard form right below it. So 8x plus 2y equals 30. And now we can just either add straight down, or we can subtract. But before we do that, we're going to see what we can cancel. When I look, I have a positive 2y and a negative 2y, so those are gone. So if I have negative 7 plus 8, that gives me 1x, or I could just write x. The y's are gone, so I'm going to go to equals. If I have negative 24 plus 30, it's going to give me a positive 6. So really, essentially, I could divide both of them by 1, right, to get that x by itself, but 1x is x, so I can just say x equals 6 without taking that step to divide. Okay, now that I know that x is 6, I'm going to go back up to one of the original ones. Either one works, so whatever one you're comfortable with, that's where you're going to be plugging it in at. Okay, so because it's an x, I'm either going to plug it in by the 7, or I'm going to plug it in by the 8. I like the idea of plugging it in by the 7. So I'm going to take this 6, and I'm going to plug it in right there. But before I plug it in, I have to have parentheses around it so I know that I multiply it. So I'm going to take 7 parentheses 6 equals negative 2y plus 24. Okay, 7 times 6, that's going to give me 42 equals negative 2y plus 24. Okay, if I want to get y all by itself, I got to get rid of this 24, so y is by itself. So I'm going to subtract 24 and subtract 24. If I take 42 and I subtract 24, that leaves me with 18. So I'm going to say 18 equals negative 2y. The y is not by itself, so I'm divided by negative 2, divide by negative 2, and I get negative 9 equals y. Okay, it doesn't matter that my y is on the right-hand side. It's still, y is still all by itself. So when I put these in my final answer, I want my x first, so I'm going to say 6, comma, negative 9, put them in parentheses, and put a box around them. Okay, so that was number 3. Let's do number 4, our last one. Looking for standard form. When I look at this first one, that one's in standard form, so that's awesome. When I look at this one, that one is also in standard form. I have my x and my y on the left side of the equal sign. So now I just have to figure out what can I cancel out. So I have a 5x and a 10x, so they don't match up. I don't have a positive and a negative, and they're different numbers. And then I have just a 1y. There's no number in front of that y, so it's just a 1, and a negative 7y. Well, let's see. I think the easiest thing to do would make that positive 5 a 10. So to do that, I would multiply everything by 2. But because the bottom is a 10, I want it to be a negative 10. So let's take all of this top piece, and instead of multiplying it by a positive 2, let's multiply it by a negative 2. So now that positive 5x is going to turn into a negative 10x. That positive 1y is going to turn into a negative 2y. And that positive 9 is going to turn into a negative 18. Okay, so we multiplied everything by a negative 2. So I'm going to take that and I'm going to put it right under that bottom equation. So negative 10x minus 2y equals negative 18. Okay, so when I look at these, I have a positive 10x and a negative 10x, so I'm going to cancel those. Then I have a negative 7, and I'm going to subtract 2. That's going to give me a negative 9. Oops. Negative 9y equals, if I take negative 18 and I subtract 18, that's going to give me a negative 36. Okay, to get y all by itself, I'm going to have to divide by that 9. So when I divide by it, and it's not just a regular 9, it's going to be a negative 9. So I'm going to divide each by a negative 9. And I get y equals 4. Okay, so I found my y, but I have not found my x yet. So I'm going to go back. And in one of these original equations, not one that I switched up, but one of the original ones, I'm going to go back and stick it back in there. So I'm going to erase the 2 original so I can see those. And I'm going to put this 4 in one of the y spots. So I think the easiest spot would be probably right here. So let's stick that one right there. So I'm going to rewrite 5x plus, instead of writing y, I'm going to put that 4 in there, equals 9. Okay, to get that 5x by itself, I'm going to subtract 4, I get 5x equals 5, divide by 5, divide by 5, and I get x equals 1. So I'm not done until I make them an ordered pair. So I have 1, 4, and that's going to be my final answer. Okay, you are all set for your assignment number 9. Let us know if you have any questions.